Guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Double R Restorations. My name is Russell. This channel is all about second-gen Camaros. They're a hobby of mine and I'm pretty passionate about it. In this video, I'm going to give you my top 10 list of tools needed to restore a second-gen Camaro. Stick around. Okay guys, before we actually get started, I just want to say that this list is my opinion and my opinion only. It's just something that I've learned over the years that I think may save you some money, especially if you're just starting out. It really depends on what your definition of restoration is. For me, it's just like it was when the car left the factory, or even better. If you've been around my channel long enough to know, you know I like things fixed right. You know I like them shiny. You know I like to do the best that I can. And you know, some people's definition of restored is a lot different. But I just want to throw that disclaimer out there. There's lots of ways to restore a car, lots of tools and everything, but this is just the list that I've compiled, and it's my opinion only. So with that said, we're down in my compressor room in the basement of my shop. You guys have been here before. I've actually got a playlist of this whole compressor room on the channel, and I'll put a link in the description below. But this Ingersoll Rand that you see here behind me, it is what I refer to as the heart of my shop. It's a 5-horse 80-gallon compressor. It's an SS5. It's a single stage 5-horse. That's what that means, and it's basically a workhorse. It is 80-gallon, so you've got a lot of volume of air to work with. I wouldn't recommend anything smaller than a 5-horsepower 60-gallon. 80-gallon is going to be better. This one, it has an 18.1 CFM at 90 psi. I use it for anything that I'm DAing. I use it for all my blasting and everything. Anything that is considered an air hog, this thing is running it. It's rated at 100% duty cycle. And I normally run it for about 30 minutes max, and then by that time I'm ready for a break. In the summertime, if I'm not using the powder coat booth here beside of me, I've got a big squirrel cage fan that I'm running air toward the head of the compressor, just trying to keep it cool. So when I first started out, I bought a direct drive 60-gallon compressor, and to be honest with you, even though it was 60-gallon, it just wouldn't do what I wanted it to do. I was constantly waiting on it, and I was just going to burn it up. So I ended up selling it. It just wouldn't meet my needs. So I know in the stores, when you're looking at the smaller compressors, it's tempting because of the price difference. But just go ahead and do yourself a favor, save you some money, and purchase one of these and be done with it. And you know, the 5-horse, you can definitely run it on a 50-amp circuit. You have to be careful on your power requirements once you start getting above 5 horsepower. 7.5 would be the max. But the bigger compressor you can afford, the better off you're going to be. We're up here in the upstairs part of my shop. Some of you may be wondering why I listed the compressor as number 1. And that's just because some of the other tools that I'm getting ready to show you, they need to have large volumes of air to work. This is number 2 on the list. Guys, you got to be able to remove the rust. And this is the most effective way that I have found to do it. Plus, if you're a long-time follower of the channel, you know I like to powder coat. And to powder coat something, it's got to be clean. I mean, that metal's got to be white clean. I also like to refinish my own original bolts with the Parkerizing solution. This comes in real handy for that. You guys have seen this in previous videos being used. I couldn't restore the small parts that I do for the car without this cabinet. And with that said, I want to give you a closer look at some of the modifications. LED bulbs, you can buy these at any hardware store. They're pretty expensive. I think they're sealed. They're $25 a piece, I believe. I started out with the halogens, which I really like the LED better. I've got more light, and they don't get nearly as hot as those. Actually, they don't get hot at all. The halogens got really hot all the time, and I just had to be careful. I've got an electrical outlet that I usually plug the vacuum cleaner in downstairs, and obviously a switch to cut it on. I've got it wired up to an overhead light there, and that just lets me know that the power is on because it's on its own switch. That's the main switch for the cabinet itself. And I really like the top load. Seems like I can get a lot more stuff in it. And something else, I was constantly just raking it from the sides. I ended up putting some of this metal around it at a 45-degree angle. And as you can see now, most of the media does do a really good job in going back down into the funnel. Now, like I said, I do have some stuff stacked up, and you can see it piling up on some of that. This is one of my favorite tools when it comes to restoration work. Number 3 on the list, like I mentioned, you got to be able to get rid of the rust. This is my pressure pop blaster. It's made by Brute, and it's model 99H. And this is one that I use for blasting all the bigger items that can't fit in the cabinet, just like my door shelves. You guys have seen this in operation before, and prior to using this one, I'd actually borrowed one from a good friend of mine that it was bought out by Brute. It was basically the same thing. I'll see if I can insert some pictures here. I used it to blast the frame rails and a lot of the inner structure of the Camaro when I had the trunk pan out of it. A lot of you may not need something like this. If you know, I watch a lot of people on YouTube, and they've got somebody that can actually come to their house and do like dustless blasting or something. They got it all set up on a trailer. Out here where I live, I'm in the sticks of Southwest Virginia, and I don't have anybody that's available to do that. So for me, having this is very necessary. And not only that, it puts me in control of it. Basically, my schedule and when I'm available to do it. When I blast something, I like to epoxy it within a day or so. And it just puts a little bit more control into my hands for my schedule. And your situation may be a little different. But this is number 3 on the list. We're back up in the garage area now. And number 4 on our list is going to be an assortment of air tools. Now, some of these air tools are relatively inexpensive. You're going to need an assortment of die grinders. I like this Chicago Pneumatic brand really well. This is actually one of my favorite die grinders. Right there is what that looks like. You don't necessarily need 2 of them. You run a variety of different heads, different sanding disc and everything. This is like the 2-inch. And that right there is your 3-inch. It just saves you time when you're working. And like I said, this is just, you acquire this stuff little by little as you're into this type of work. Got an old Northern Tool die grinder here that's straight. And this is what I use for grinding down my welds with. You guys have seen that in action before. Got a couple cutoff wheels that I use the 3-inch cutoff disc with. And these are pretty cool. These are belt sanders. And this is actually a Northern Tool brand made by Clutch, I think. It's their house brand. And I've got the 3M belt on it. Something Fireman showed me. Harbor Freight Special. And it's a little bit smaller. And I find myself, like, yeah, I've got 2 of these. There's been cases where this one would be too large to get into a certain area, and this one would work just perfect. You just have to keep that in mind as well. It's kind of like why you would have so many different sockets and stuff for reach and stuff like that. So, you know, just because I got this one, I still use this one from time to time. Obviously, for prepping metal, I've got my DA sanders. I like these 3M ones really good. I've got another one that came from, I think it's a Farmall. It came from Tractor Supply. It works really good. This is my 3M vacuum sander. You guys have seen this in action before. Really like this setup. I don't have a lot of paper for it, but I really like this setup. This is an 80 grit right here. So you can see why I put the compressor as number 1, because everything that has kind of followed has been pneumatic, has required air. Guys, number 5 on our list is a good quality MIG welder. I just happen to have 2 here. This one is a Lincoln 180C, and the other one is a Miller, I can't remember, maybe a 211 or something like that. It's a dual voltage. The Miller will do 240 and 120, and I'm pretty sure my Lincoln is just 240. Do yourself a favor, get yourself a good quality machine. Make sure it's gas shielded. No flux core in this sheet metal replacement. I know there's guys on YouTube that swear by it, but it doesn't work for me. I like the gas shielded stuff myself. So get yourself a good name brand welder that you can buy parts for. It's going to serve you for many, many years. Doesn't necessarily have to be a Miller or a Lincoln. I just happen to like these 2 that I have. But there's Everlast, and I've seen some good things about the Vulcans. I've never had a chance to use those, but I've seen good things. Alright guys, along with the welder, just know you're going to need the PPE that goes with it, as well as all of this stuff that I've showed you. Just like the pressure blaster that I use outside. I've got a fresh air system. I would like to actually get a hood that had the fresh air system, and I think that would be a lot better. But when it comes to the welder, buy yourself a good, reputable hood. This is actually a Miller hood, but Lincoln has got some good ones. Jackson's got some good ones. This one is actually so good that you can actually see with it on just looking around the room. I've had some of them that was so dark that you couldn't see nothing until you actually strike the arc. But this one you can actually see really good, and then once you start the arc, it darkens, and that's really important to me. Kind of makes that helmet flip not as important, because you can already see before you even strike the arc. You know, like in the old days, guys would get up there and they'd get ready to right in position, and then they would flick that helmet down so then they could strike their arc. But with these, I can see just as good right now as if, just like, it just looks like a yellow pair of sunglasses on. So I do have a cheater lens in this one. Old age is catching up with me. I have to wear readers now, and when I first got this, I didn't need that, but I do now. So these, one good thing about the Millers, I think the Lincolns and the Jacksons have them as well. But you only got one set of eyes, and you want to protect yourself. I wouldn't trust a $39.95 welding helmet off of eBay or something. I just wouldn't. I would spend the money, get myself a good helmet. That way I know I'm protected. Guys, number 6 on the list is going to be paint gun. So you may not be planning on painting your car at all. You may have it basically farmed out to a professional shop. But if you're doing the metal work and the rust repairs and stuff, there's going to be a time that you might need to spray some rust preventative paint, maybe some epoxy primer, to basically, you know, close off an area that you can no longer get to once you put that panel on. And you're going to need some type of paint gun. Now, you can buy a paint gun for $30, or you can spend $1,000. It's totally up to you. I would just get something that you're comfortable with and something that fits your budget. For me, you guys have seen my little LPH80 on the channel. This is actually one of my favorite guns for small parts. It fits up into some tight areas real easy. I've also got the 3M PPS cups. This is the 2.0. Makes it really easy to clean these guns up. When it comes to paint guns, I'm kind of a paint gun hoarder, paint gun collector. I love them, and I kind of steer away from the cheaper guns. I really like the Awadas, and I like the DeVilvis brand. They just fit my hand. I like the way they spray. This is an LPH 440. This is a good gun for primer. It has a 1.8 tip, so it's going to do high build primers really well. I wouldn't spray poly or nothing with this. Actually, when it comes to spraying poly primer, I don't have a problem using a cheaper gun. That stuff kind of goes on thick anyway. And one thing you don't want to do when you're spraying something like that is let that stuff set up in the gun, because it will ruin it. So anytime you're spraying primer, you got to be very careful. With the exception of the epoxy primer, it has a long pot life. But like I said, it's all in what you can afford and what you want. I've always been of the belief if you're using a good quality gun, then it just helps your paint job that much more. The learning curve is so steep and the products are so expensive that I didn't want to be using a cheap gun to hinder me to learn how to paint when I first started trying to learn. And I'm no expert at painting at all. I still have trouble at it. We did just finish up painting Project Sally, and it turned out really good. And I used the DeVilbiss guns for that. I was real happy with them. And I really love the DeVilbiss line. I did buy a solder one time. I didn't like the solders as much. They just didn't fit my hand that well. Not like the Iwatas and the DeVilbisses. They just feel good in the hand. It's all about being comfortable. And like I said, it's just going to depend on your restoration project of how far you're going to go with it. But buy a good quality gun. Even if it's the LPH 400, you can buy these guns used for $200 or so, and then you can sell it and recoup the cost later. And this gun will serve you really well. Guys, number 7 and 8 go hand in hand. We're talking about hand tools and toolboxes. This is one area that lately I have started to not buy, top name brands, and I've started to look around. I got into buying some of the Harbor Freight Icon tools and some of their US General toolboxes. At first, I just thought that I would try them and see how I liked them. And guys, I was really impressed. This ratchet wrench set is kind of what started it all for me. I really wanted the snap-on version of these. These have they're reversible, first of all. And then they have the 15-degree angle on the box inside that I really like. And I'm going to tell you, I bought these just to give them a try. I was really impressed with them. They kind of really came in handy on Project Sally that you see in the background. So from there, once I got my confidence up about them, I started buying more and more of them. And now every time I go in there, I'll buy something for the box. So in this box, you'll find a collection of, there is some snap-on. There's quite a bit of Icon now at this point. There's some gear wrench, and there's some Craftsman. So back in the day when I was first starting to get into all of this, Sears and Craftsman was it. That's kind of where you went unless you bought something off the Snap-on or Mack truck. And the Craftsman stuff did well, and I have a lot of it in this box that I actually started out with. Now, I still haven't tried any of their ratchets. I've got a few, actually I do have a few of their Pittsburgh ratchets, which is their cheaper brand. This is just the 1/4 inch soft handle. And I'll tell you, I was really impressed with it. And I'm still not ready to give up some of my Snap-on and Mack ratchets. This Snap-on ratchet is probably one of my favorite. It's just a 1/4 inch ratchet. And I'll tell you what, I usually reach for this one each time. Just really love this ratchet. Same goes with my Locking 3/8 ratchet. It's actually a snap-on that you can lock the head of it. And I use this one quite a bit. I actually had the guy in the truck put a rebuild kit in it because I actually bought this thing used and it was kind of slap wore out. Like I said, there's some gear wrench tools in here with the 90 tooth. And I've used this quite a bit. We used this for doing the brakes on Sally, the rear brakes. It seemed like this was just the right right length that I needed to get leverage and everything, and it come in real handy. And then here on the top of the box, we've got just an assortment of sockets. We've got a 1/4 inch, our 3/8, and our halves, and we've got the shallow and the deep, and then we've got the impacts on the in-between parts. Like I said, this is always changing. You're always upgrading it, always adding to, always moving things around. This is a set that we bought just to work on Project Sally. I think they're called the E-Torques. I call them reverse torques, inverted torques, but Ford used a lot of these. And we've got the set in the chrome, and we've also got the set in the impact. As far as toolboxes go, I think this US General Master Cart is basically one of the best deals you can get. It's large enough that it holds a lot of tools, but it's also mobile enough that I can move it from one bay to the other. They also have their 5-drawer carts, which are real handy. And this actually Sammy's box, and she wanted the green, so she's got the green over here. I started off with the 5-drawer cart and quickly ran out of room. And there's a guy on YouTube that basically shows you how to add another box to an existing 5-drawer cart. And that's what I did with that. They don't really make this box. This is kind of a customized thing. I'll see if I can find a link to his video in case you want to do this. You do lose the lock on the bottom, but I was able to fabricate a locking system that uses a padlock in the very back. But for the money, before I'd buy 2 5-drawer carts and make this, I would buy the Master Cart. Guys, number 9 is going to be jacks and jack stands. Just recently purchased these from Harbor Freight, the Daytona brand, and this is their 3-ton jack stands with the little safety bar in there, and I just don't think you can beat that for, I think it was $30-some for a set, and for 2, and I think it was another $10 for this cushion. This is something that I looked for a long time before I even started shopping at Harbor Freight, and it was hard to come by. The other one that I use quite a bit is the Uni-Jack. You guys have seen this on the channel before. It's got a bottle jack, and it's also a jack stand. For a jack, I'm using this one right now. This is one that came from Northern Tool. It's just a 3.5-ton XL35. It's made by Arcan, I think. And it was recommended to me by another YouTuber, and it has actually worked really, really well. Guys, number 10 on the list is going to be basically books, forums on the internet, and obviously YouTube. I have learned so much from other YouTubers that share their experiences and everything with the power of video, that it has helped me tremendously. Just basically being in the garage with them as they're working on stuff, it's just, I can't tell you how much I've learned. It's amazing, this platform that we have to learn from each other. And I had to include it on the list as number 10. So guys, leave me a comment. Let me know what your favorite tool is for restoration work. I've got Project OverKill here in the garage. We are starting back on it. And also, you can see Project Sally sitting over there. It is just about complete. I'm just waiting on Sammy to get home for summer break. We'll film our last video on it. And so you'll want to make sure you've got the bell pressed, so that way you don't miss any of our up and coming videos. With all that said, there'll be a playlist somewhere in the corner of Project OverKill. It'll be in sequential order, get you all caught up on the projects. So when we do start rolling out the new videos, you'll be up to speed. With that said, I appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll see you on the next one.